Hello everyone, my name is FC Schultz. I thought we would try something different today. I'm going to read the first page of some popular fantasy books and just kind of point out some things about character or world building or hooks, things like that. Now, I can't read these books on the video, but I've linked all of the samples from Amazon in the description below if you want to read along. So I thought we would start with the very popular The Will of the Many by James Islington. So I'm going to take a second and read that first page, and then we're going to point out some things from it. So he does something super interesting in the very first page, which I'm kind of surprised that his publisher let him do this. And so you'll see it if you look at the sample. You might be able to see it here, but there's a paragraph here where we don't know who's talking. We don't know who it is. We don't have any names or anything like that. And he gets dropped, whoever it is, this maybe a father-son situation, gets dropped off a cliff. And then immediately we have a break, and now we're somewhere else. If you can get somebody to get your book, even if they don't buy it, if they get it from the library or something, and open up to the first page, you've done so much work already. Because that means your cover's good. That means your taglines are good. And so to start with some momentum and then immediately change it and go to a different setting it takes a lot of guts to do that. I'll just say that. But it works. It gets you into the story. You want to know what's going on. And then it immediately shifts, and now we're in a different place, different characters, I guess. These characters have names. We get 2 names on this page, and they're playing some kind of a game, which we don't know the rules, we've never heard of before. And they throw out some names. Magnus Quartus, no idea what that means. Sappers, we don't know what that is. And so what James Islington has done here is he's introducing us into the world with a very small scene to start with, after leaving us literally on a cliffhanger after a paragraph. And he's got us hooked. We want to keep going. There's enough intrigue that it's not so crazy that we don't even know, like, I'm not following. You can follow along still, but we want to know more. We want to turn the page. We want to keep going. Let's learn more about this game at the very least. So that's a pretty good start, I would say, from The Will of the Many by James Islington. Let's see. Next, let's do, actually, Blood over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang. M.L. Wang has given us so much information in this, not even a full page, that we know this main character who is walking in this snow and cold, and she mentions that the gods were there, so we have a little bit of the religion and what's going on in this world as far as a religious point of view. The second paragraph starts with what was left of the tribe, and so she goes on to tell us that there was thousands, tens of thousands, it says, and now there's only 40 people left in this nation, and they're making sure that nobody is chasing after them. And so immediately, 3 paragraphs in, we know that there's been some kind of event to wipe out tens of thousands of people, so that's got our intrigue. And we also know no pursuers. Somebody says no pursuers to what I'm presuming is our main character. The very first word is Tamil, so I'm assuming that's our main character. Somebody says no pursuers to him, and so that adds a little bit of intrigue as well. Why would you say that? Why would there be pursuers? Who are they expecting to be pursuing them? So that's an interesting hook as well. One thing that we don't get very much of yet, which, again, 3 paragraphs here, we don't get a lot of character stuff. I don't really know anything about Tamil yet, besides he's walking and he's out on some kind of a patrol or something. But other than that, I don't really have anything yet from him. But I think those 2 big questions about what happened to the tens of thousands of people and why would they be expecting pursuers, who's pursuing them, I think those are definitely big enough questions that make me want to keep going and keep reading. So that's a great first couple paragraphs to really get the reader hooked. All right, next let's do The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. He's doing so much work in this first chapter here. We get introduced to 4 or 5 characters on this first page, and in a way that feels very real. It says the very first sentence is, "It was felling night." And so there's some kind of thing happening that differentiates it from another night. And an old man is telling stories to 3 kids who it says have been friends since childhood. And one kid is called Boy, but we get a little tidbit here that he's actually taller and bigger than everybody else. And with those little tiny character things, they become real in our minds immediately. Again, half a page, not even a full page in. The guy who's telling the storyteller says, "The lamps on the wall were all burning blue." I have no idea what that means. The kids kind of know what it means. And they actually says, "The boy gave a slow nod, the Chandrian." I don't even know if I'm saying that right. Then the storyteller says, "Everyone knows the blue fire is one of their signs." Everybody, we didn't know that, but now we do. We feel like we're part of this group because of that little bit there. And then it's interesting, this last sentence where he says, "Why didn't they just kill him when he had the chance?" And the storyteller says, "Hush now, you'll get all the answers before the end." Which is kind of just, Rothfuss is just dangling that carrot out there a little bit, knowing questions will be answered. You just got to keep going. And that's a great tease. That's a great first starting paragraph. I like these characters. I don't know a lot about them, but it sounds like a good time telling the story. The storyteller sounds good. And so I want to know more. I do want to know the answers, and you've already promised me that I'm going to get them. So I'm into it. So now we're going to do Red Rising last, actually. Let's do Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. And this one is interesting. The first chapter is called The Earliest History. And I can already tell it switches after this first page. So this is a little bit of a different one. So let me read it really quick and then we'll talk about it. Okay, interesting. This first page is almost like a prologue, and there's nothing about any main characters. I don't know anything about even much about the world. I just know a little bit about the history of a family of royalty, I guess. We do finally start to get a little bit of a hook here at the end, where she says the Taker was the name of the first king, and that is how the names of the kings shaped who they were, their identity, their characteristics. So that's interesting. And then there's also a little line that some people believed that such names were sealed to the newborn babies by magic, and that they had to fulfill whatever kind of virtues their name had. So that's interesting too. Again, I don't know anything about the story. I don't know much about the world besides that. A little bit of the royalty. I don't know about how any of the nobles or anybody else acts, or any of the peasants, if that's even where we're at. So that's interesting too. That's an interesting way to start a book. But again, the hook is there, and it makes me want to keep reading. What are these people going to do when their names are tied to their destiny? And also, can they change it? Presumably, that's the question. That's a big question. So, all right, last one. Let's do Red Rising by Pierce Brown. The first chapter is already called Helldiver. So immediately with the chapter name, you're like, Helldiver? Okay, all right, what are we doing here? This first page is packed with so much character stuff, world building stuff, kind of government relations stuff. I mean, it starts out with him talking about his family and recalling the day that his father died, and he didn't do anything to stop it. We get, again, 4 or 5 characters that are mentioned here, and we learn a little bit about each of them, just sentence fragments that really show us a lot about these different characters and who they are, their motivations, and that kind of thing. So well done. And then the last little sentence of this first paragraph says "on Mars," and so immediately we're like, oh, okay, we're on Mars. This is not a Mars that I know, and so I'm immediately hooked with that as well. This is a similar thing to The Will of the Many. He's recalling something here, and then there's a break, and now we switch to, I guess, present time. So it's interesting. It's gonna be interesting to see how this plays out from here. I smell my own stink inside of my fry suit. what is a fry suit? We're bringing that with Helldiver. We don't know what these things are. We don't know what this world means. We don't know what golds are. It talks about golds in society and grays. There's like some kind of color system going on. These are all questions that we don't know. And why did his father die is a great hook too. Pierce Brown has done a great job just hooking us immediately with character motivations and regret for this main character is regretting it, but also hooking us into this world. And we have a lot of questions about this world. Why are they doing this? Who are these people? That is a great way to start that book. I hope this was helpful for you. I know it's a little awkward because I can't actually read the stories to you on the video, but again, I've linked them all in the description if you want to just read the first page so you can kind of see what I was talking about and see exactly how those hooks and how those characters are playing out. I would love to make this kind of a series and do, you know, classic sci-fi as well, or even just the classics like 1800s or modern fiction or short stories, and just kind of see what are these different genres doing with the first page of their books, and how are they hooking readers, and how are they keeping them going to the next page, and so on throughout the book and even the series. As you're writing your book, I would say the first page is not something to just like lose sleep over as you're writing the first draft. Write the first draft, get it done. You can always come back and revise. Now, if you're working on your outline, you can already be thinking through that. How can I introduce my character? How can I introduce my book in a way that shows some about my character but doesn't give too much away, shows a little bit about my world but doesn't give too much away, but also hooks the reader, that puts questions forward to hook the reader. And so that's something to think about as you're writing the first page of your books. And I'm not saying anything crazy here. I don't have some wild insight into these different books, but I think it's an interesting exercise to see how different people are doing it with the first page. And I would love to do that for some of your guys' work too. And so if you want to use the link in the description to send me the first, let's say 500 pages, let's say send me the first 500 words of your manuscript, and we can do the same thing. I'll print them off and I'll actually be able to read those ones on the video if you'll allow me, and we can make something work there. We can read them and see and kind of react to them that way and kind of see if those are working or not too, and kind of get feedback. And then you can get feedback from the comments and from other people as well if you're bold enough to do that, if you want to do that. I know that's a lot, but that's that could be a fun way to do that as well. So that's all I have for today. Enjoy. Happy reading. Happy writing.